Deuteronomy chapter 3, this is Moses either on the last day of his life or certainly in the last month of his life. And he's reflecting on how you, Israel, are now going to go into Canaan, but I can't enter. The reason God gave him as to why he couldn't enter was because God had told him to speak to the rock and water would come out, but instead Moses took a rod and he whacked the rock, and yes, water came out, and he said, must we, Aaron and myself, must we bring water out of the rock for you rebels? And God was displeased and said, because of that, Moses, because you spoke wrongly with your lips, you will not enter Canaan. But when Moses himself talks about why he can't enter the land, he always says what he says here in Deuteronomy 3. Yahweh was angry with me for your sakes. And that's why I cannot enter the land. And he says this a number of times, particularly here in Deuteronomy at the end of his life. He is, I'm afraid, rewriting his own narrative and saying, well, yes, I'm not going to enter the land, but that's because of you. You, Israel, it's your fault. God got mad with me because of you. No, that's not what the record says. God says, you spoke wrongly, Moses, and you did wrongly, and so you shall not enter into the land. And yet he's at the end of his life. Will Moses be saved? Yes, absolutely. The New Testament is clear about that. And he was the humblest man on earth. Out of this arises the great warning that a man as spiritual as Moses, a man who will be in God's kingdom, a man who was extremely humble, despite that huge humility, he's still on his deathbed, pretty well like at the total end of his life, still cannot take full responsibility for his sin and still wants to blame it on someone else. This is why the Bible begins with the account of Adam and Eve in Eden, blaming. Adam blames his sin on Eve and she blames it on the serpent. They don't fess up. It shows how hard it is to take full responsibility for your sin and not to blame it on other people or other situations. This is really hard for us. Even Moses at the end of his life didn't get there. Now, take the lesson. Let us learn from the scriptures. Take full responsibility for your sins and stop blaming on this and that factor and whatever. Take the responsibility. And also, I think, take the comfort that you will go to your grave planks imperfect, not fully mature, but God will save you all the same by his grace, as he did Moses.